A handshake ends a contentious presidential debate.
Believe me, she has tremendous hate in her heart.
Everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised.
Really? Why some Republicans are distancing themselves from Donald Trump. Pope Francis names 17 new cardinals. See how the surprise announcement reflects the global church. Matthew's aftermath. Catholic groups try to help those most in need. And Columbus Day controversy. Why some people question the holiday. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Monday, October 10th, 2016. Donald Trump faces a Republican backlash tonight after the release of a lewd recording. Pro-life advocates, however, stand by him as Hillary Clinton renews her support for abortion. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. We have special coverage of the presidential debate from the White House. Here is Chief White House Correspondent and Political Director Lauren Ashburn.
Brian, we're here at the White House today where the two candidates in last night's debate want to be come January. The debate itself was one of the most contentious that we have seen in this presidential and primary election. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton didn't shake hands before the second face-off, and that icy start set the tone for another contentious debate. As expected, recently released video from 2005 of Trump making lewd comments about women took center stage early.
And certainly I'm not proud of it, but that was something that happened. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse.
When I hear something like that, I am reminded of what my friend Michelle Obama advised us all. When they go low, you go high.
The candidates exchanged verbal blows on topics ranging from foreign policy to personal temperament.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
There were a few surprises, including the moment Trump knocked his own running mate on the issue of Syria.
He and I haven't spoken, and I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree with your running mate?
I think we have to knock out ISIS.
The town hall format allowed some voters to pose questions for the candidates. Carl Becker brought one of the debate's few positive moments.
Would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Clinton said she respected Trump's children. Trump said he respected that Clinton was a fighter who didn't quit. And finally, they shook hands. The issue of life did come up in this debate. It came up at the very end when Donald Trump said Justice Antonin Scalia is the model for a Supreme Court justice. Hillary Clinton disagreed.
I want a Supreme Court that will stick with Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to choose, and I want a Supreme Court that will stick with marriage equality.
Joining me now is Jason Calvi, our Capitol Hill reporter. Jason, this has had some serious repercussions down ballot as Republicans are dropping like flies from their support of Donald Trump.
Right, we've seen Arizona Senator John McCain, we've seen John Thune, the number 3 Republican in the Senate, we've seen a whole list of Republicans in both the House and the Senate now taking away their endorsements or even calling for Donald Trump to exit the race.
And what happened this morning? There was a big phone call between Paul Ryan and members of the House?
Right, he spoke to House Republicans and he said, you need to do what's best for your district, pretty much giving them permission either to take away their endorsements or to be critical of Donald Trump at this point. And he also said his goal right now, he's not going to be campaigning or making any appearances with Donald Trump. His goal right now is to make sure that Hillary Clinton doesn't get a blank check when she's president. Now, his office quickly responded to that and said he wasn't conceding the race. We do know that during this phone call that some backers of Trump said that there's still a chance that he could become president.
Donald Trump was not happy with this phone call. He tweeted, Paul Ryan should spend more time on balancing the budget, jobs, and illegal immigration and not waste his time on fighting the Republican nominee. There are a lot of people who are still supporting Donald Trump, and many of them are conservative Christians. Why is that?
Well, they say that the number one issues, abortion, the Supreme Court, religious liberty, marriage, are issues that Donald Trump says he's on the side of the conservative Christians. There's a group called Catholic Vote. They're a group of lay Catholics. They have never endorsed Donald Trump, but they've supported some of his proposals. And today they're pretty much saying he needs to drop out of the race or the RNC needs to act. Today also at the largest evangelical college in the world, Liberty University. They had a convocation today, and two backers of Donald Trump spoke, and they said that Trump is the solid choice for Christians. He still is, but they were critical. Here, let's take a listen.
Now, those 11-year-old comments were offensive and inappropriate.
We're never going to have a perfect candidate until Jesus Christ reigns forever on the throne. So,
amen to that.
And joining us now is Gregory Cordy of USA Today. He's a White House correspondent for the nation's largest newspaper. Welcome to the program. So you have been covering politics for a very long time. Give us your overall take of what has happened since Friday.
Yeah, this has been an extraordinary turn of events. And just the debate itself would be, I think, a seminal moment in this campaign. I think that would be a moment that people are going to remember. We might have to wait to see what the Saturday Night Live parody of it is, since that's what sort of solidifies these things in the public consciousness. But, you know, you had Donald Trump admitting that he hasn't paid taxes in who knows how many years. You had him disagreeing with his running mate on the issue of Syria. And you had him saying that he wanted to put Hillary Clinton in jail once he's elected. So it was just a really almost bizarre sort of debate. I don't know that he hurt himself too much, but he has so much ground to make up now. He's digging himself a deeper and deeper hole with each headline that comes out. So he needed a big score here, and I don't know that he got it in this debate.
It's all over the place, the reaction of how well he did versus how well Hillary did. And I think something that really summed it up, Jason, that I was reading, was that he was able to staunch the blood flow, right? And the polls, however, do not show that after Friday's lewd video that he has been able to do that. The new poll coming out from NBC shows him 14 points behind.
14 points behind. I think that poll was also done before the debate, but after the video came out, so we can just see what's going to happen this Friday when the new polls come out. But we've seen that this was the debate that I think Republicans wanted to see in the first debate. He went after Hillary. He said, "I'm going to throw you in jail." He pointed at her. He challenged her. He seemed to be much more prepared. People were complaining after the first debate, why didn't he prepare as much? But he did have those one lines to really throw out at Hillary, and also at the debate moderators. He said, "It's 3-on-1 tonight."
Right. Let's go to Las Vegas next week, right? We have our third and final debate, Gregory. Your thoughts on, you know, it's hard to predict, but your thoughts on what needs to happen in the Trump campaign between now and then?
Well, I feel like the Clinton campaign thinks that she's ahead, and they just want to run out the clock. So you saw that in the debate last night. She didn't take any big chances. She really just let him talk, as in the first debate, let him talk, let him make it sort of an unforced error. You know, unless there's something big in this debate, and you know, remember, the other thing that happened over the weekend is that these WikiLeaks emails came out that show Hillary Clinton making some statements, you know, differentiating between her private position and her public position, suggesting that maybe on trade she has,
and nobody has been talking about them. The
because
entire
it was completely
cable news
overshadowed.
has been overshadowed by this video. And do you think, either of you, that conservative Christians are going to be able to deliver the numbers for Donald Trump?
It's listening to that convocation today, it seems like they're really trying to get the vote out. They're very worried. It seems they were presenting the case once again. They've been promoting Donald Trump for a while since he won the primary, and all of a sudden now they have to go back and retouch base with those faithful to say this is why he's still the man, and he did apologize and he was embarrassed by those videos.
Quickly. There's also a segment of conservative religious people, the Mormons. You know, the Utah delegation has really had a full-on revolt here with Jason Chaffetz and Mike Lee. And so, you know, Utah, I think, is still safe Republican, but I think that shows you how deep of a hole Trump has dug himself in with some conservatives.
Gregory Cordy of USA Today, Jason Calvi, our Capitol Hill reporter, thank you both so much for joining us. Brian, we will be at the Las Vegas debate next week, and we will bring you coverage of the third and final showdown between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Back to you.
Thank you, Lauren Ashburn at the White House. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Pope Francis names 17 new cardinals. 13 of them are under age 80 and therefore eligible to vote in a conclave to elect his successor. The Holy Father made the announcement Sunday.
Terrò un concistoro per la nomina di 13 nuovi cardinali dei 5 continenti.
The new princes of the church come from 5 continents. 3 are American. Archbishop Blaise Cupich of Chicago, Archbishop Joseph Tobin of Indianapolis and Bishop Kevin Farrell, formerly of Dallas, who now heads the Vatican Department for Laity, Family, and Life Issues. Francis will elevate the 17 new cardinals at a ceremony called a consistory on November 19th, the day before the Holy Year of Mercy ends. We go to Rome for a closer look with National Catholic Register's Ed Penton. Ed, why do you think Pope Francis chose these three Americans, and what's the reaction in the Vatican?
Well, the Pope has chosen these three cardinals, Brian, really because they reflect very much his views. In particular, they're very much of his mind on Amoris Laetitia, the summary document on the synods and the family. And they have very much the same, I would say, the same vision as the Pope. So the Pope, every Pope chooses those who reflect his thinking and those who he feels can best carry forward the way he wants the Church to go. So that's why he's chosen these first American cardinals that he's chosen as cardinals. But the reaction has been rather mixed. Some are rather concerned about the choices because they feel that these cardinals are not so clear on the Church's teaching as perhaps they would like. But others are delighted, and they're delighted at the fact that these cardinals, at last the Pope has chosen cardinals for America, and they're pleased about that. But also some would like other cardinals to have been chosen, for example, Archbishop Gomez in Los Angeles and Archbishop Chaput in Philadelphia.
And Ed, what stands out to you the most about this new group of cardinals?
I think again it's about the universality of the Church in these choices of cardinals. The Pope has gone to great lengths, as he has in the previous previous selections of cardinals, to choose those from all corners of the globe, and he's chosen them from the 5 continents, and he's also chosen them from 5 countries which haven't normally had cardinals. So he's trying to make it a more universal, to represent the universality of the Church, and to bring in those who are, as often he tries to do, on the peripheries, if you like. So in many ways it's in continuity with the previous choices of cardinals that he's made in the past.
The National Catholic Register's Ed Penton in Rome. Thank you, Ed. Dr. Matthew Bunson, senior contributor for EWTN, joining us. Matthew, what do these picks say about Pope Francis and his vision for the Church?
Yeah, well, Pope Francis, in terms of his picks for the College of Cardinals, has a 2-track system that's very clearly in play here. The first is to really elevate the College of Cardinals as a consultative body. He's surrounding himself with advisors that he trusts. It's why so many of these picks are very personal, including Archbishop, now Cardinal-elect Tobin, that we'll talk about more in a second. The other track, though, is the one that's the most intriguing, and that is making sure that every corner of the globe is heard. It's why he seems to be choosing so many obscure bishops from obscure places, like Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea and Bangui in the Central African Republic. But there's a method here, too, that he wants these cardinals to be able to give him advice from everywhere, so that the peripheries are heard, the poor are heard, everyone is heard.
Well, Los Angeles and Philadelphia traditionally have cardinals. However, Archbishop Chaput and Gomez were left out. Why?
Yeah, again, as I was saying, that Francis is choosing people very personally. So the pick of Archbishop Supich to be cardinal is not a big surprise. The big surprise really was Tobin in Indianapolis. So I think in Francis's mind, it came down to a choice between Tobin or someone else, and he went with Tobin because he knows Tobin. He met him in 2005. They've been friends ever since. Tobin also has vast experience in the world when he was head of the Redemptorists. So for Francis, again, it's personal. He wants Tobin as an advisor. It's not a rejection of Gomez, but Francis is also bypassing some of these large cardinalatial sees, as he has in Europe and elsewhere.
17 picks overall. Is there anything that these men all have in common?
Yeah, there are a couple things. First, they all have pastoral experience. They're strong in pastoral leadership. The other thing, too, is when you look around the world, a lot of these picks, these are former or current presidents of Episcopal conferences. These are men who've been elected by their fellow bishops to positions of great responsibility. Francis relies on that.
Going with experience.
Experience.
Dr. Matthew Bunson, senior contributor for EWTN. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Great to be with you.
Coming up, humanitarian disaster. Hurricane Matthew devastates Haiti, and Catholics join forces to deliver aid. On Monday, October 10th, the Columbus Day holiday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. Hurricane Matthew leaves life-threatening flooding in its wake. North Carolina's governor says they're still rescuing people from high water, and I-95 remains closed.
This is going to be a prolonged hurricane for us, even though the skies are blue.
At least 10 people were killed in North Carolina, most of them in vehicles swept away by floodwater. Utility crews are working to restore electricity to hundreds of thousands of customers along the Atlantic coast. Haiti took the brunt of Hurricane Matthew. Hundreds of people died as the storm collapsed homes, sending debris flying. Now, volunteers are doing what they can to feed survivors. Tour guides in Port-au-Prince prepared food, driving 5 hours, taking it to people in shelters.
What I like is people work together. Like today we came here, there's actually been a few kids that kind of went 2 days without eating a proper meal.
Cholera is an ongoing concern in Haiti with limited access to clean water. On Sunday, Pope Francis sent a message of support calling for solidarity with those suffering in Haiti. The Holy Father says the devastation there deeply saddens him. Today on his Instagram account, Francis says, quote, "I invite you to join me in prayer for our brothers and sisters suffering greatly due to Hurricane Matthew." Cross Catholic Outreach is one of the nonprofit organizations trying to help the people of Haiti. Steve Bastian is director of Cross Catholic Outreach's Box of Joy program. Steve, how does this latest storm compare with other disasters that Haiti has suffered recently?
Well, Brian, I was in Haiti in January of 2010, right after the earthquake. That was the last big disaster. That was catastrophic. 200 to 220,000 people died, most of them immediately. The difference is that the agriculture within the country was intact. Many of the systems were intact. Now a huge swath of the southern part of the country, which is one of the most fertile areas of the country, have had all their crops devastated, wells contaminated with salt water due to the sea surge, cut off from supply lines because of the geography of the mountains and being on that peninsula. So it's quite different.
What are the most immediate needs right now?
Right now, the immediate needs are clearing those roads so that trucks and relief organizations like Cross Catholic Outreach can get their supplies into those areas of Jeremy, of Jacmel, of Lacaille, in that southern part of the Tiburon Peninsula. That's a big need. Food is immediate medication, and some health care in many cases. In terms of housing, of course, there's going to be that need immediately and long term. People tend to, in Haiti, they're resilient. They pick up what has blown away in the storm and they rebuild with scraps of anything they can find. They are survivors.
Other than housing, how do other needs change over time?
Well, there's 3 phases really. There's relief and rehabilitation and development. Relief is needed immediately and for the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple of months. That's getting that part of Haiti back to where they were before, back to their normal, which is not our normal at all. It's extreme poverty. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And so rehabilitation will only get them back to that point. After that, we will continue with development efforts to deal with systemic and long-term issues through the priests, the nuns, the missionaries. We'll work through the parishes and the diocese in Haiti, and that's how we can work so effectively.
And I know you have the Box of Joy program. We don't have time to talk about it extensively, but give us a website where people can find out how they can connect directly with these people.
Right. We really want to bring some hope and happiness to the children that are going to be affected, that are affected. It's going to be a tough year for them. So just go to boxofjoy.org, boxofjoy.org, or crosscatholic.org/boxofjoy. They can find out all about it for schools, parishes, university groups, Catholic women's groups. It's really for anybody. Catholics organize it, we facilitate it, but anybody can participate in it.
Steve Bastian, Cross Catholic Outreach, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Up next, Columbus Day, what Catholics can learn from the well-known explorer, and Marian Jubilee. See the procession through St. Peter's Square. Pope Francis tweets today, punishment should necessarily include hope. #no death penalty. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Brian Patrick. Well, today marks the 10th anniversary of World Homeless Day. Steve Berg is an expert in housing policy with the National Alliance to End Homelessness. Steve, does your newly released report show any progress in this past decade?
I think there has been progress. It always seems to me to be excruciatingly slow. But if you really look at the numbers, the number of homeless people has dropped pretty substantially at any one time in the U.S.
Are the main contributing factors to homelessness consistent, or do they change with our changing culture and society?
Well, I think in that 10-year time frame, we might know more about the factors than we did 10 years ago, but I think it's been the same the whole time. It's people having a hard time affording housing because they can't make enough money at a low-wage job or can't get a job at all and can't afford rent because of that.
Well, your organization works very closely with this issue. What would you say is the most effective approach to addressing homelessness?
Well, I think one of the things we've learned is the adoption of what people call a housing first approach. So this is for programs that are actually trying to help people who are homeless. The right approach is to get them into housing as quickly as possible and then deal with the many other issues they might have once they're in housing. This is somewhat different than the way things were done 10 years ago and the way they're done in some places now. But really, housing is the main barrier to people solving their other problems if they're homeless, whether that's a mental illness or the lack of job skills or whatever. Until someone's in a decent place to live, it's almost impossible for them to make any progress on those other.
I know addiction plays a major role in this picture as well. How critical is the role of the church in this?
Well, I think it is very important. I mean, to be specific, well, let me just say this. I've been working for the National Alliance to End Homelessness for 10 years, and for 20 years, and one of the most thrilling experiences I had was when Pope Francis came to Washington a year ago. After his big speech to Congress, he went and met and ate with a group of homeless people and homeless service providers from here in Washington. He got up and made a speech where he said there is no justification for homelessness, for lack of housing. That I think sets the tone. It's not so much can we do this, will we do this? It's how can we possibly not do this?
It was very effective. From the National Alliance to End Homelessness, Steve Berg, thanks for joining us.
Sure thing.
Well, today's Columbus Day holiday honors the historic navigator Christopher Columbus. But in recent years, some cities are focusing instead on indigenous people who were here before Columbus arrived. Wyatt Goolsby reports.
Here in the nation's capital, Americans are paying homage to the man who discovered America, Christopher Columbus. But not everyone is happy about the holiday. In Mexico City, some groups want to call it Dia de la Raza, or Indigenous Peoples Day. This man says he's a survivor after 500 years of European invasion. He says the Europeans came to take away native culture and language. A headline in the Washington Post reads, "The War Against Columbus Day." The article cites several U.S. cities that are following the trend. While Columbus has been vilified by some in recent decades, Catholic scholars often refer to his writings and his good intentions about bringing Christianity to the New World. In fact, he often talks about educating the Native Americans in the faith before even considering conversion. Tim Sakosha with the Knights of Columbus says often Christians forget the role faith played in the famous navigator's life.
Many people would say it's the discoverer of America, but really we also have to look at it as Christopher Columbus is the first person to bring Christianity to the Western world. And so it's a great day for Catholics, for Christians, to know that this is where our faith started.
Franciscan seminarian Israel Sebastian Arauz Rosales says Columbus wanted to bring missionaries to the New World.
I think Christopher Columbus, in particular, his devotion and steadfastness to the faith, although he was by no means the perfect practitioner of the faith, I think that he recognized his errors when he did commit them, and he was repentant of them. That captures the Christian identity itself, to repent and to believe in the gospel.
J.P. McCusker, who led today's ceremony honoring Columbus, says he hopes all Americans will remember the man's historic significance.
Here's a man of great vision. He was a man of great tenacity. He was a man of adventure. And he's the guy who set it in motion. I really believe that Columbus is an individual that has to be revered.
In Washington, Wyatt Goolsby, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Wyatt, and thank you for watching. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Brian Patrick. We're going to leave you tonight revisiting a weekend prayer vigil in St. Peter's Square for the Marian Jubilee. Groups from all over the world bring an image of Our Lady unique to the devotion in their respective regions. Good night. God bless.